Hello and welcome to the CMIP Panel Debate Theatre here at NAB Show 2022. And we have a wonderful panel which we've run a number of times, but not with this brain trust of expertise. Turning to the cloud to reduce TV service, CAPEX and OPEX. So without further ado, let's get our panel to introduce themselves, starting with Pierre.
Hi. I'm Pierre. I'm the business unit director of Alpha Networks, and our job is to deploy OTT platforms with our SaaS end-to-end solution.
Gabriel.
Hello everyone. My name is Gabriel Baños. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Flowix. We are a cloud-based platform for producing live graphics and interactive content for both linear and digital broadcasters.
And we have a substitution. We've improved our quality. Marco.
Thank you. I'm Marco Montenovo. I'm Global Solution Architect for Digital Video Solution in HP Enterprise.
Frank.
Hi, my name is Frans Blomstein. I'm the CCO of Amware TV, based in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, and we offer a full end-to-end OTT platform as a cloud TV solution.
Sasha.
Hello, I'm Sasha Zavanovic, CEO and co-founder of Nextologies Limited. We are what we believe the only solutions provider that has been able to take hybrid and cloud and provide that to, let's say, where the trends are going for this migration to the cloud. So an end-to-end service provider for linear and streaming services.
We've all seen a massive growth in cloud during the pandemic. Yeah. I think I saw that Nadal from Microsoft said it was 5 years in 6 months in terms of growth, or some magically wonderful statistic. I'll start with you, Pierre. Why, in your view, has the acceleration of cloud been so profound over the last couple of years?
I think the way content is distributed has completely changed because small and medium-sized media company owning content and wanting to distribute content now can directly access direct to consumer. So that's why we encounter something like plus 400% inbound requests in a request of new platform, of new deployment on all kind of segments, in sports, in e-learning, in kids content, in all kind of events, on festivals. Some of them needed a solution to digitalize their activity because they only had a physical presence, and some they just decided to cut the middleman and to address directly their audience.
Gabriel, it wasn't just the pandemic. We'd seen a growth in cloud adoption in media entertainment for a number of years. Are there any other trends that you've seen in the last few years that made such an important technology for us?
Yeah, well, in our case, we do a lot of work in the live production space. So definitely we are seeing a surge in the adoption of cloud production workflows. That is, well, of course, that was, of course, to some extent, kind of like forced by the pandemic with the remote production needs. So that clearly accelerated that trend of moving to the cloud to enable new remote production workflows. So, and that is also combined with the growth of cloud computing in general, and the fact that also cloud computing, the cost of cloud computing, they are going down. So every year, it's I think less and less expensive moving data to the cloud or doing data processing in the cloud. If we compare the cost from today versus maybe 5 or 10 years ago, yep, it's a lot more affordable these days, yep, and that trend will continue. So also, let's say the improvements in connectivity, 5G, 4G. So all these new technologies, and they are becoming more and more accessible for everyone. So yeah, moving to the cloud, it's becoming easier and easier every year.
Marco, Live's a good one. That was a relatively new cloud utilization. But Marco, are there any other areas where you've seen cloud in maybe a surprising growth of cloud?
But for me, in my experience in HP, we saw the so-called REMI, remote production activity, is actually exploding because of the pandemic for sure, but also because now the people understood that the working from home is an advantage, and it's really possible. It is not just 5G, it's actually the capability to find the resources in the cloud and make a kind of a democratic approach to the production itself. It's not just that you can lower the cost because you are just cutting out all the commuting costs, but you enable professionals really to be part of the marketplace because they are reachable and they can work from home. Okay, this is the thing that is important for me. Production in the cloud, especially in a virtualized environment, if it was collaborative, it's something that is very interesting. An example for us is our key areas of research. E-games, the productions of the transmissions for the e-games, the things that you see on Twitter, just because is nice, they have wonderful graphics and are entertaining and are driving millions of viewers. So with more and more professional activities is actually happening with the cloud-based production facilities. That's definitely an exploding area. And there are others, because now the participated TV is something that makes possible. So I engage with the audience, the people is participating by being connected through webcams to the phone, and they are in front of the stories. You cannot reach anyone else because that is the guy with their phone is keeping the story alive for you. That's something that really boosts the cloud usage for me.
Hans, what's your view?
What you see in the market, at least in our market, is that operators move from satellite to OTT solutions, and OTT solutions, they will become will run in the cloud. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's scalable. You don't have to invest a lot of money in servers because you do that with third parties. And the cloud gives you an opportunity to introduce interactive TV as well. So what you are saying, the interactivity, that you can stop the stream if you want to stop that stream. That is not possible with satellite or terrestrial or something. And the cloud has helped the IPTV OTT market enormously. And in my opinion, what you see in the US, for instance, and I think that will happen in other countries and other areas as well, there are more and more people moving away from cable to OTT or IPTV providers, because they take a skinny package, not anymore the 250 channels with $120, but they take a package with, let's say, 30 channels, and then they add those cloud solutions from Netflix and all that kind of things. So they're more flexible in that way, and that helped the cloud enormously.
I'm really glad that you brought up a non-production workflow, because Netflix is always the poster child for OTT delivered from the cloud, but they're not alone. If you look regionally, there are lots of new services, fast services, OTT services that are springing up from clouds globally. Where do you see we have some benefits, CAPEX versus OPEX versus CAPEX. What do you see as the fundamental benefits that aren't maybe getting the same OPEX story that the cloud has been telling for the last few years?
Yeah, that's a great question, and sort of leading into why we see that growth of cloud and additional services is just if we look around us today and everyone's holding a screen in their hand. So we have so many more screens that we need to fill that content. So the rapid demand, including COVID, and I think everyone brought up very good points, but we have more screens to put stuff on. So as long as we're not costing more to facilitate that, we're good. And cable platforms, as you mentioned, which is perfectly said, we were stuck to one screen. And now we're many more screens. I got a screen in my garage. I got a screen in my pocket. We got screens everywhere. So I believe the big drive why cloud has got an amazing push is because we need to feed that demand of what that consumption. And that's from my perspective, the easiest way to say it.
Cloud is not new. I mean, I was writing about the forerunner, ASP, Application Service Provision, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And if you think back, for those with longer memories, the bureau mainframes are a kind of cloud environment. Where are we in the maturity model of cloud as an industry? Cloud's still relatively new in media entertainment. Where do you see the maturity?
I think the maturity is a few years before, to access to cloud and to access to its own OTT platform. It was really hard, and it required a lot of qualified people, a lot of skills, a lot of investments. And now, thanks to cloud solutions, SaaS cloud solutions, pretty much anyone with a restrained budget and time to market can deploy a new platform really easily in no time.
Gabriel, where did you see the sweet spot? Because clouds are, we're a big industry with lots of different silos. Where are the sweet spots for cloud?
I think that the first thing is we as vendors, I think we all have the responsibility to make cloud access easier for everyone, for all our clients, still more reliable. We still see in some cases in the industry that there are doubts when moving to the cloud and saying, hey, but what if this goes down? What if I lose the connection? What if? So I think we need to keep on working as an industry to make sure that our clients rely more and more on the cloud, because the technology is there. We need to make it easier for everyone to work on the cloud, and that applies to the user interfaces, that applies to the backend technologies. So I think we are in a pretty mature state already. If we go through the floor here, we'll see, I don't know, plenty of companies providing solutions for the cloud playouts, cloud switchers, cloud graphics, cloud this, cloud that. So that is showing us that we have already reached a certain point of maturity. But we need to keep on working as an industry to make sure that our clients, who are in the end like the decision makers and deciding where to put their budgets, they need to rely entirely on the cloud, and it's our show as an industry to do that.
Marco, what's your view?
Well, first of all, for me, cloud means zero time to market for production. That's fantastic. I click on a marketplace and I have a production environment ready for anyone who can get connected. Then it's democratic, because as I said, freelancer producers can easily be reached, and even contributors can even be part of the community of contributors. For me, ideally, is the audience of the program itself that creates an intimacy and raises up the audience engagement and also the number and efficiency of the TV program. That, for me, is definitely a new thing. And then it's also facilitated for me by the power of the mobile devices. Now, the software that you have in the mobile devices stabilizes the images, provides quality, provides something that was unexpected on professional cameras only 10 years ago, and is in the pockets on anyone. So this means that the only problem you have is to find good editors, good journalists, good events. That makes an event-driven television made possible. That is much more interesting than the traditional way of broadcasting, where you create something that is planned with a lot of investment to send a truck there, to send people there, and you're having a lot of people there just defining the volumes to make it possible. It's different. It's a completely different way of doing television that is happening right now in an explosive mode.
I'm going to switch slightly. I'll give you the hard question, Hans. I'm sorry. Cloud adoption has been rapid, but there are still some inhibitors. There are still some challenges. Security used to be the big one. Oh, we're scared about security. Reliability, scared about reliability. When you talk to your customers, where do you see the pushback and how do you overcome that?
Well, I would like to answer your first question.
Absolutely.
Because I was waiting for that. You said about maturity of the cloud. I think in general, the cloud is getting mature. You see in certain areas in the world, like Pakistan, India, they have some doubts about it because they really want to see racks with servers. And a cloud, in my opinion, is just a server from a third party somewhere else. Can be AWS, can be Google Cloud Service. And what we've learned with our operators that they are accepting that more and more. So it's getting matured. And we explain to them, if you go into the cloud, you don't have to invest in your own servers. You don't have to have maintenance guys. You don't have to have a lot of engineers to run it. In some countries, the engineers, and in fact then you talk as a as a seller, you talk to the wrong people. You have to talk to the marketing guys and to the finance guys, not to the technical guys, because they think that they can lose their job, which is not the case, by the way.
That you just described the broadcast industry.
Yeah, but it's not happening because they're going to be from a real technical engineer to a more management.
Yeah.
That's the role they're going to have. And so the industry is more mature. Now I forgot your second question.
Now's the hard one. You've had the easy question. Now the hard question. So what are the inhibitors? What's stopping cloud adoption when it is a natural progression in certain scenarios? And how do you overcome those arguments?
Ooh, that's I give it to my neighbor. I will think about
You
it.
know, I thank you for that one, Franz.
You see how he did that one? He just threw it at
Franz
you.
brought up a very good point, and he used the word operator.
Yeah.
The operators are changing.
Yeah.
As those operators change, new entrants into the markets, they'll begin to adopt companies just like ours up here to satisfy those services because the operator is changing. It's no longer a single screen cable operator that we used to deal with. So that's changing. Back on the maturity side of it, I think data centers and clouds have been around since the inception of the internet, what we call them the modern day internet. So we look at where things are going or the trend or adaptation to that trend. I think the biggest headache right now is education to it. And I spoke on a panel, actually I did a presentation on the other side of the building. The problem is we're trying to replace, and I'm on the fence. We are a hosted cloud provider. We provide infrastructure plus cloud plus management of that for the client. So we're adding a layer that the cloud providers are not doing. There's no 1-800 AWS. Like, oh, I need your help. You got to hire someone.
Yeah.
So we look at adoption is fear. And if you look at technology, and we call ourselves a people company. We don't invest in technology, even though we make it. We're not investing in technology because in 18 months that technology's changed, it's outdated, we've got to update it, got to do something new with it. We invest in people. And the fear in that adoption, what I believe to cloud, is not knowing. And I think some good points here about stability, will it go down? All valid points. Build it as it'll always go down, or plan that as it will always go down. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, there's not enough people who know how to operate the cloud, even if it's in someone else's infrastructure like ours or another. You need to train people, and I think education would accelerate that process into the cloud, and that's what's lacking right now.
So when I was first in broadcast, I made TV shows when I was young. They weren't very good and I was very young. And the world was SDI, 3G. This wasn't even 6G, it was 3G. I went into the world of telecoms, IP, happy days. When I went back to broadcast, I thought, oh my God, I'm going back to SDI, oh my God. But IP had turned up. But the conversation then was, we don't trust IP technology in broadcasts. IP technology in broadcast, there's no place for it. And the fear you heard from operations about IP quickly disappeared because a good broadcast engineer will learn IP like that. And they'll adapt and they'll flourish and do things that they couldn't do with a matrix switcher of SDI. Do we think that evolution to the cloud will follow a similar pattern to the evolution from SDI to IP? Now there's a question.
It's a tough question because I'm in the OTT market, but but regarding the hard question from previously, I think that one other issue that big broadcasters and big telecommunication operators have is the initial investment they add in terms of time and money, and they're reluctant to switch to cloud when they consider all the time they spent on their own investment, on their own hardware and solution. So I guess that for biggest operators, it's still not mature enough to make the switch. But for smallest customers, smallest players, then it's a no-brainer for them to switch directly to the cloud. But I'm sure that in the following years, big operators and big broadcasters will switch to the cloud. But they still have to convince internally that this is the right move to do.
When you speak to your customers, are you getting pushback about the skill sets required for the cloud?
Not really, because we are more focused about tier 2, tier 3 operators. The biggest tier 1, we do not address them, so it's not really an issue for us.
Okay. Gabriel, are you getting any pushback at all?
No, not really.
No?
I mean, back to your previous question, I think that the analogy that you are doing with IP, SDI to IP, and then IP to cloud, that is already happening. I mean, yeah, our clients, they are losing fear of the cloud. Again, it's our job to educate the industry, to educate our customers. We need to. There is something that I love about cloud and cloud deployments in combination with, of course, the SaaS models, because here we need to discuss both cloud adoption with software as a service.
Yes.
Yes. They go together.
Yes.
They go together, and I think that one leads to another, and one without the other just doesn't work. So
I think you're right as well, because this title's, the panel's maybe a little bit misnamed, because I put cloud to reduce. You could change cloud to SaaS. To reduce. Yeah,
exactly.
Very good
but
point.
you still need the hardware.
You still
need
need
the hardware, so it should be SaaS, the software hardware as a service.
Like SaaS is not a good name.
I know, but it's true. You still
SaaS.
need an appliance somewhere to facilitate first or last mile. Who's going to support it? Who's going to handle that? Someone still needs to be responsible for that. The guy in the truck, that engineer, someone still has to do that. And then when it doesn't work, guess what? He's in trouble. So we can't necessarily accelerate there just yet.
We need to be careful, because one thing is support from an IT infrastructure. Another thing is the service for a broadcast production. That includes for me the support, because if I'm having an infrastructure and doing a production in that moment, I don't give a damn of the operation. I cannot open a ticket and waiting for an answer that someone from India is answering me. No way. I need a guy that knows how to solve the problem now, or switch over a backup solution now, because I'm in production live now. That's service.
Yep.
Gabriel.
But I think that is exactly what we are doing with the new SaaS models. I mean, our clients, they get a subscription to any of our platforms, and they just forget about maintenance. They just forget about like running backups or whatever. I mean, anything related to the operations. Our clients, they can just forget about it. Of course, it's our job, and then we also rely on the big vendors like, say, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. So we are all relying on them, and we know that, well, their servers are probably a lot more reliable than any other servers that we have in the world.
And I work for HP, so I'm with you.
So I know that on this panel, you work with hundreds of customers, and there must be hundreds, thousands of examples of how cloud, SaaS, different ways of running our business of production and distribution and creation. Can you give us some examples? Anyone like this conversation? In fact, a few examples where cloud, SaaS has changed the dynamic and really helped a business. If you can't mention the customer name, I can just say like they're a large broadcaster in. Just some real world examples are always great things. Anybody like to jump in?
Yeah, I would like to say there is a broadcaster in Africa, old-fashioned, government-owned, and you think, well, it's very difficult to come with the answer or the story about cloud TV, and even they say, yeah, we are ready now for cloud TV. We are really ready to move away from our own servers to a cloud solution, and the reason for that is that they say we can now unlock our content that is available already for a long time. We can create different channels, which we could not do in the past because we have just a couple of terrestrial or satellite channels, which are very expensive. Yes. And there is no interactivity, and now we can make our own fishing channel for maybe that 10,000 subscribers. And because of the costs are very low to create these channels with the production, then for 10,000 users you can create indeed in the cloud with that solution, with IPTV, you can do that.
And scale based on the number of viewers as opposed to the infrastructure.
Correct, and there's one other thing which is extremely important in my opinion for cloud. You need to give the right support. And that you can do that as a company, but your partners have to do that as well. Because if that is lacking, because if it's not working, you should call someone that is in fact helping you, which is not on your payroll, but that company should help you. And it can be Akamai as an example for the CDN. They solve the solution. Can be Google server, cloud servers. But they are there to help you, and they are experts. And in my opinion, especially because the companies are getting there are more companies coming, and like Pierre was saying, little companies, they cannot have all those people on board. So they have to get support from you, from other companies, experts.
I
Any
think
other examples?
I think this cloudification has a longer story than expected, because I remember that at the very beginning, everything that was file-based operation was already moved in the cloud. Archives, backup, then archives, transcoding farms to offload, and then play out. And then more and more, then file-based thematic channels, which have no life. Then disaster recovery for play out, that head end for it. These things moves more and more and more the content into the cloud, and the media services on top of the content, provided it's a file-based activity, is already in the cloud available and perfectly acceptable for me. Now the new things because of the COVID is that that broke this kind of skeptical approach that is I'm doing a production from remote because now I have to do the production from remote.
Necessity.
So there's no choice. I'm doing that. So I spoke with many broadcasters saying I have people at home. I have to have them working. So it's a no-brain. It's something that has to be. So this is speeding up and breaking this last wall that prevented to have also the production in the cloud. Now, what is possible versus what is not possible is the things that now has to wait performances in the cloud to reach up to the point to the physical architecture we found within the broadcast architecture nowadays. But you know what? If you go HD, you are fine.
Yes, any examples that we could share?
You want to go first?
Yeah, okay. Well, I have an example of customer which is called Tank. It's a small content production company dedicated to documentary movies, and they wanted to deploy their own OTT platform on a large scale in Europe and North America, and they had a reduced team and no engineers, no technical engineers to do it at all, So that's why they came to us and we deployed for them, and in a few years they became one of the main players in their markets. And now they triple their capacity of content production thanks to the revenue of their platform. So this is a cycle, a self-alimented cycle.
Thank you for those examples. Another example?
Yeah, well, we were talking about remote production, and I can talk from, two different cases. One of our clients here in North America is the National Lacrosse League. This season, they are starting the playoffs, I think, next week. And this season, well, they need to produce games every weekend for 14 different teams in 14 different cities. So if I asked you, well, how many OB bands you need to produce those games?
14, I'm going to say.
0.
Okay, I was wrong then.
So they are using 0 OB bands. How many TDs you need in each venue? How many? 0. They just have the cameraman. They send video through IP to a central location, to a remote location in Salt Lake City. Remy. And that's it. If you ask them what's the reduction in cost from this season versus previous season, it has many zeros.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And in our case, with FlowX, well, we are supporting this new production workflow with cloud graphics. So if I ask you how many on-prem graphics engines they are using, 0.
Because actually the network is in the cloud. So if you have the video brought into the cloud and you have the media elaboration with the GPUs in the cloud, that's it.
So I'm not to tote our company, but 100% of our customer base is the cloud, because they've come to, and you've touched on it perfectly, Franz, and I think Marco said it as well. You don't have time to open a ticket, and we refer to it as one neck to choke. You need one person who knows how to handle that. All these cloud providers are amazing, but they're providing the service there. You need someone in between, in front of that, to handle that. Now, we're fortunate enough to have our own cloud and not dependent on anyone else's. It's all our infrastructure, but a perfect example of a client of ours we can speak to very well, Associated Press. Nextologies handles all of the global live video delivery and replay, recordings, anything required for them globally.
Yep.
So handling that, it was 4 years ago, they saw the tea leaves, they saw the writing on the wall, they needed to move quickly, but hardware, legacy support. We must not forget that legacy support is mandatory. Technology is amazing, but we're still paying off SDI workflows from 5 and 10 years ago. It's still on the books.
I remember doing a panel a number of years back, and somebody much smarter than me said in the 1900s, if you wanted electricity, you got a generator, and you put oil in it, and you turned it, and you ran your cables, and then you had electricity. By the 1930s, 40s, there was a national grid that gave you electricity. You need electricians.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if it's the national grid or the generator.
Absolutely.
Without an electrician, you don't have any power. Are we in a situation now where what we see as cloud and what we see as the potential, it's just, you know, bigger, faster, scale, more flexibility? Do any of you see any fundamental changes in the cloud model coming over the next 3 to 5 years? Anything that's going to be like, wow, we can do that, or that changes how we perceive cloud? See, Hans, you dodged the last hard question. I'm going to ask you that question because it's hard.
Thank you again. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Yeah, hard question.
Do I see changes? Yes. Yeah. I see operators starting a certain part of their business with the cloud, and if they're happy with that, then they will move over, let's say, the last parts of hardware also to the cloud. And it can be transcoding in the cloud. Why not? Why do you do that on a server locally? Again, you need money, a lot of investment. You need people to organize that. You can organize that in the cloud, which is, I'm not saying cheaper, but it gives you more flexibility. And so that's a trend I see, that bigger operators, and that is the same story what Pierre said, that they have legacy, they have invested a lot of money, they don't want to get to stop that, because then the finance guy says, okay, we book it, it's gone, and we make a big loss. So they don't want that. But I see a trend that they're going to do more and more in the cloud, so that they can focus on marketing, get the subscribers in, focus on your own core business instead of the technology that's existing. It's easy.
I can agree with you. I think the idea of, I know we say we need hardware all the time, but again, using the electricity example, there are no generators anymore.
But you get a lot more electricians.
We have a lot more electricians. Yeah. Anybody else see a fundamental shift? Or, I mean, for me, I see edge computing being one of those fundamental shifts that could change our relationship with the cloud. The idea of moving some of the compute down to the ISP, down to the, any other, what's
Hardware?
your view on edge? I mean, I'm curious.
More hardware.
Well, I mean, in my case, yeah, it's definitely a trend that we are seeing, like yeah, moving part of the computation to the edge to provide like a faster, better experience for the viewers. We are, and again, in our case, in particularly with graphics for live broadcast, we are also moving graphics from the traditional, let's say, like the on-stream graphics integration with the video feed. We are now moving graphics directly to the device, to the user device. Yeah. So with the, okay, we got here in our hands, this is the most powerful computer we ever had. So these things here, now we got the possibility of changing the way we produce feeds, live video feeds, by maybe instead of producing 15 different feeds, you can just produce one feed, and then you add the graphics layer directly on the user device. And that is something that we probably we couldn't have imagined maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and that is happening because of edge computing, because of faster devices. And then the second thing that I want to highlight is, again, the flexibility, not only in the technology itself of cloud, but also in the business models, because in the end, it's all about the new business models. And then again, I want to emphasize SaaS and moving from CAPEX to OPEX, which is, well, the title for this panel. And yeah, it's about the new business models. And you can scale up and down with the cloud, and you can do that with just a click. If you buy equipment, on-prem equipment, you buy an appliance, you cannot do that. You cannot remove output or input from your hardware.
And I'm just going to clarify, at the world's largest broadcast technology show and halls full of hardware, I am not suggesting that hardware is going away overnight. But the hybrid model where hardware is basically a box that contains software, we all agree, I'm assuming, that we are moving more towards a software-centric view of the world.
It's already there.
Yeah.
It's already there. Yeah, the new IP models. You mentioned IP earlier. I wanted to say people don't even know what IP is. So you have streaming, which is IP. You have SMPTE 2022, which is compressed video IP, and then you have IP, which is 2110, which is super duper heavy. So you need to clarify that. But it's already.
You have ATC3 that is IP.
Now, wizards. I'm going to warn. I've warned that I was told that there were wizards on this panel. Don't get into your SMPTE 21. Blah, blah, blah.
The point is, it was more about that education layer to understand all the different variants. But really, at the end of the day, we're already in a software environment. I think we can all agree that it's already there. You still need your edge device or source device to get it in and out.
Now, this is truly is an expert panel. So if there are any questions from the audience, this is now a good time to ask it. If you don't want to ask it in public, all of these experts are within 20 seconds walk of this panel. So when they get off the stage, you want to grab them, and you ask them those tough questions. I have one last question for each of you, the final one. I'm going to start with you, Pierre, just to give you some time to get yourself ready for it. Okay. If you had to give a piece of advice for an organization that's desperate to move from a CAPEX heavy model towards a more OPEX friendly alternative, what one piece of advice would you give?
One piece of advice.
One piece of advice.
If they want to deploy their OTT platform in the cloud, just swing by our booth. It's just
yeah,
Come on, good one.
yeah, okay. That was too easy.
Love it.
I would say start now. Don't lose time. Don't wait, because the train is going. So don't miss the train.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, you are giving an advantage to your competitors.
And also, let's be honest, it's not a difficult thing to do. I mean, you need people, but you can try it and actually see if it works for you.
Yeah, you can always do a POC. You can try it. I mean, in essence, running some tests on the cloud, it just takes. You can do that from one day to another. It's not that so.
And even if you don't have your own team to do this, you can try with SaaS solutions.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, Mark.
For me, technology is exploding now. So, on one side there is such an explosion, but I advise is start gradually. Start HD. Do not jump inside 4K or whatever. Start HD because that works. And go for REMI. Go for remote integration. Work from remote. Those are the three pieces of advice that summarize everything.
Wonderful. Hans.
I would say use your budget for the project the right way. Use it to get subscribers in if you're an OTT provider or a cloud service provider. And leave the investment for servers to third parties and rent them. And be flexible. Let's say you're offering the Super Bowl. Can you imagine that you're offering the Super Bowl that 100 million people are watching, and then the next day only 10 million people are watching? And you say, and what are you doing with the service that you acquired for the 100 million? Yeah. So I say use that in the cloud. Use a cloud server for that. People that are really doing this all the day, and the peaks you can cover with that kind of solution.
Scale up.
And focus on marketing.
Scale up,
Get
scale
your
down.
subscribers in.
Completely agree.
I'll try to make this one quick. I'll agree with Pierre in the first one. Our booth is over there. If you want to make a decision, I totally agree with everybody. Actually, do it now. Yeah. Start now. Don't wait. Yeah. Remember why the cloud exists, and I encourage everyone to remember this important fact. If you haven't started infrastructure, don't spend money on infrastructure. If you have infrastructure, well, let's remember why AWS exists. It exists because their website was crashing, their book website was crashing, so they built infrastructure so their book site wouldn't crash. We have all this infrastructure left over. What do we do with it? Let's rent it out. Now you have that cloud. Yeah. So if you have infrastructure, monetize your own, as we did, and created a whole organization around the broadcast space. So all of this, there's nothing, they're all correct.
And I'm going to give my 2 pennies worth because it's my panel. I'd say my one bit of advice is think hybrid. Because cloud is not right for certain workloads, and it's absolutely perfect for other workloads. And if you're locked into a mindset that says, we have to be cloud first, it's not going to work for you. It has to be, what's the benefit? We're benefit first, and align your technology spend, cloud, on-prem, the way that suits you. That's my two bets.
Perfectly said.
But anyway, that's it. Another panel done. We're nearly at the end of NAB show. You can tell how happy I am to finally fly back to London. But before I go, I need to give a big round of applause to our expert panel.
Thank you.